Awesome. So my name is Ben. I'm going to try and do my best today to teach you all about crypto, NFTs, and why it should matter to you all. So let's get a quick show of hands. Who owns crypto right now? Who's like actively invested? Just a hands up. Okay, cool, everyone. Who is into NFTs? Buying NFTs? Cool. Amazing. And anyone been in here for longer, in the crypto space for longer than, say, 6 years? Some OGs? Cool. Amazing. Well, let's get into it. So first of all, a story. So I was recently over in the US for the first time. Went to Hollywood. And if you've ever been to Hollywood, it's completely different to Tasmania, where I'm from. The people are different, food's different, culture, everything's really different. And I was really confused, right? And it made me feel a little bit unsettled being in Hollywood for the first time. And as I'm walking down the Hollywood Boulevard for the first time, looking at the stars on the ground, I'm approached by a man in a grey suit. And he's offering a free personality test. I'm like, I've always wanted to know more about myself. So I follow him inside into basically a big dark room with more people in grey suits to do this personality test. And I had a couple of schooners, so I was a little bit excited at the time. Anyway, 2 hours later, we finished this personality test. And my results are there. And he walks me back into the dark room to walk me through my test results. And at this point, I still have no idea where I am. I'm still ultra confused, right? And he walks me through my test results. And obviously, he walks me through everything that's wrong with me, right? And of course, he's got a solution to all my problems. Like most people in crypto, this is very similar. When you're teaching or selling solutions to problems you don't have, and I was feeling completely overwhelmed, and it's very similar when you first get into crypto. So today, I want to talk to you a little bit about, oh shit. Crypto can be overwhelming, right? A very similar experience when I was in Hollywood. And, sorry, it's going to take a moment. So the three key things today I really want to teach you about is what is crypto, what are NFTs, and the 3 investing strategies, so you can walk out of here knowing exactly what crypto is and why you should invest into it. So my name is Ben. I'm the founder of Collective Shift. We've helped over 10,000 crypto investors globally. I've been all in on crypto since 2016, and I've done a lot of things right, and I've done a lot of things wrong. And I think for most people, when they first get into cryptocurrency, there's a lot of untrustworthy people, right? There's a lot of people doing some pretty crappy things, and I was caught out in that space a few years ago. So it's a personal mission of mine now to really try and help people get in this space and really know how to invest properly in the crypto space. So the experts right now are probably your Uber drivers, all right, or the person at work telling you what crypto to buy, or your influencers or TikTokers. And although these people might be passionate, they're not necessarily experts. And I'm not an expert by any stretch, but what we're trying to do is really allow us to go into the fundamentals of why you should invest in crypto assets, looking at the sentiment, the on-chain, and really look at the valuations behind crypto assets. So a lot of us already in this room, are a little bit more experienced here than what I would have hoped. But what I believe in the cryptocurrency space is really allowing us to be that decentralized, aspect, right? So we don't need that middleman to transact peer-to-peer. We don't need someone to hold our hand. And through Bitcoin, we're really allowed to take control of our assets, right? We don't need that bank to do that. So there's 2 types of crypto assets, as we know. There's Bitcoin and Ethereum. And Bitcoin's really trying to be the digital asset, right? It's trying to be the USD equivalent, only digital. And one of the most important things that I find in this space is the limited supply with the 21 million Bitcoin, right? So with normal currencies, we have the inflation that's happening right now with the trillions and trillions of dollars the government's printed. The most important factor for me is that 21 million Bitcoin that's hard-coded into the system. The store of value of that as well, as we get that decrease in supply, so the halving that happens every 4 years, we get the decrease in supply. As we get more demand, we obviously get that increase in price. And that's the opposite of most central bank currencies, right? We get an increase in supply with the amount of money that's being printed, and we get that inflation. We've also got Ethereum, and Ethereum is basically trying to be the Web3 app store. So the utility token aspect and the smart contracts. And the best way I can demonstrate the smart contracts, as I say to beginners, is basically like a vending machine, right? We're able to build programmable automated businesses without the need of a middleman. So a vending machine, for example, we put in a $2 coin, we press the Coke can or the Powerade that we want, and it gives us that drink every single time without the need of a person to do that. And Ethereum is obviously doing this on a global scale. And one of the biggest use cases for Ethereum is DeFi for me. DeFi is the most exciting. The ability for us to not have to go to a bank to take out a loan or earn interest on our savings is the most exciting part for me. So with DeFi, we don't need that bank, as I mentioned. Who's got a mortgage here? Just a quick show of hands. Who's paying that 6-7%? Great. All that money is going directly to the bank, basically, because we're getting stuff all in our savings. With DeFi, all that liquidity and all that money is staying in the system. So if you find good tokens that are building good DeFi projects, and one for me is Maple Finance. I'm a big investor in a Maple, not financial advice. But it's a really good ability to actually generate more value through a token, right? Rather than that money going to a bank, we can use that money all in the system. And I think it's going to be really powerful as time goes on, as more people become aware of how much money these middlemen people are taking, whether it be banks, governments, whatever it might be. And DeFi is one of the most exciting spaces there. I think one of the downfalls right now is still user experience in the DeFi space. Actually, crypto broadly, UI and UX. We look at, say, like Sportsbet, for example. The experience for Sportsbet, for those that gamble, is extremely good, right? If you want to go bet on a sports game or a race, it's literally 2 clicks and you've got to bet on. In crypto, you're like, oh my God, I need Ethereum. Where do I buy that? I need a MetaMask. Now I need a Ledger. Now what the hell is Uniswap? And now I need, what's this, like gas fees? Like it's really confusing, right? And for a lot of people getting in this space, I think that's the downfall. And I think that's where the next 4 to 5 years, those people that can win in building great user experiences, and I think the exchanges here this weekend are doing a really good job. Being able to really build an experience that mum and dad investors can get in, those are the projects for me that are going to win. So why NFTs? I listened to Greg's chat yesterday. Greg did a great job of explaining NFTs, but for me, I think people are underestimating the actual value of the smart contract system behind NFTs. And as we know, it's just another form of digital ownership, but it's beyond the JPEG, it's beyond the right-click save that most people think NFTs are. Right, so through the smart contract, let's say the Mona Lisa, for example, was created on an NFT. Every single time this Mona Lisa was transacted, bought and sold, the original artist could have earned a clip on that transaction. So you imagine the amount of money that original artist would have made on the Mona Lisa. And I look at even local stores, how can businesses implement NFTs? So the local pizza store, for example, he could have created, let's say, the golden Willy Wonka sort of ticket, right? Free pizza for life. He sells out for $10,000. Every time that golden ticket is bought and sold to other people, that local pizza store could have, again, earned a percentage transaction on every time that NFT is bought and sold. Plus, that NFT could give access to a one-on-one cooking class with the owner. That could get access to a private community, maybe an event. Maybe he can create his own pizza. It's the utility behind the NFT, not what it looks like, right? I'm not an artist, I can't draw, I don't really get art too much, but I think for me the utility aspect is amazing. So at Collective Shift, we're building like an NFT membership. Again, it's not going to be pretty, doesn't matter what it looks like, it's about what it gives you access to. The NFT gets you access to a private part of our membership platform. We go on a retreat, you can only go if you have the NFT, right? So it's the access and ability with that NFT, which is the most valuable thing. So I'm going to give 2 main investing strategies we sort of teach at Collective Shift. There's a beginner one and an advanced one. So for those that are just starting out in beginner crypto, I really look at just splitting down between Bitcoin and Ethereum. One of the biggest mistakes I see investors make when they get into this space is going down the list, right? Buying into low cap assets, getting into Shiba, listening to Elon Musk, getting really excited, right? It's one of the biggest mistakes I make because mainly investors come into crypto when it's exciting. Everyone's talking about crypto. It's November, Bitcoin's at 90,000 and everyone's selling their altcoin. Bitcoin and Ethereum for me is a great asset. This is where I start with Bitcoin and Ethereum. I think the 2 that are going to succeed the most over time. I do not see 13,000 cryptocurrencies succeeding in 10 years' time. I think it's going to be like the stock market. I think we're going to have that top 100, 200. They're going to be the clear winners. But there's certainly not going to be a lot of these other coins down the list. So we've probably already seen this chart a little while, before, but dollar cost averaging I do see is very undervalued, right? If we were to invest $100 a week back 3 years ago, back in October 18, right now we'd have around $63,000 after just investing $15,500, and that's after Bitcoin's down 50 or 60%. For me, I get carried away with this, trying to save up all this money and just buy a big load at once because I like to, build up my Bitcoin balance faster, right? Or get a little bit impatient. But people try and time the market. and there's never a gentleman's entry, we say, getting into crypto. It's always pretty tough to find the right time to enter. So I know it's boring, but I used to take my wage in Bitcoin. So for 3 years, there's a service called Get Paid in Bitcoin, where your employer can actually just pay you directly in Bitcoin through their service. Your employee doesn't have to do anything, and that goes directly to your Bitcoin address. And it's a really great way to not to be too hands-on and have to cognitively think about buying Bitcoin all the time. If you can automate the process and just to start to accumulate, because I do think the next 12 and 18 months is going to be pretty boring. All right, I don't think the market's going to return, which we'll chat about soon. It's a great way to wake up in 3 years' time and maybe have that 0.5 Bitcoin, maybe 1 Bitcoin, right, where you probably wouldn't have saved that in cash. If you're like me, I like to spend my cash too fast. So it's a great automated way to do it. And Bamboo is a great app. If you haven't checked out Bamboo, it's a good automated way to do it. Now, I'm going to talk about the experienced Web3 investing strategy, which by most of you're probably already into crypto. So we've sort of split our portfolio over 4 different components here. So we've got our layer ones in the blue. We've got our Bitcoin in the green, data management in yellow, and DeFi in red. So I think a good winning portfolio in crypto is always a diversified strategy. I'm not a maxi, I'm blockchain agnostic. I am an Ethereum bull, but I also think that Ethereum's not going to be the only winner. Maybe it's going to be Solana, maybe it's going to be Cardano. I don't think there's always going to be one winner, right? Just like Apple and Android are both winners. I don't think there's just going to be one winner takes all. I haven't included NFTs here, but it's completely up to you if you want to invest in NFTs. Just remember, from a macro investing point, not only are you betting on the NFT, but you're betting on the blockchain it's on as well. So if you're betting on NFT Solana, NFT Ethereum, it's like a leverage long or a leverage short. So, in the NFT sort of summer we had the last 6 or 8 months, I probably spent too much Ethereum on my NFTs, got to be excited. So just be careful when you're investing in NFTs to look at the blockchain it's on as well, because that is also a component of how you're diversifying your assets. As I mentioned, for me, Ethereum and Solana are good, but Bitcoin always should be a big component. I think Bitcoin is a blue chip. For me, I've got some pretty bold predictions about where Bitcoin's going to go. Super bullish on Bitcoin. And then we've got data management and DeFi as well, and Maple, which I spoke about before. So where are we in the markets right now? I had our Matt and Nick do a bit of a market analysis for me. Really, where we are right now, we are super tied to the global economy, unfortunately, right? We've got inflation, rising interest rates. I'm not a macro expert, but mainly people view Bitcoin and crypto as a risk-on asset. So when the world goes to shit, like we are now, they turn to risk-off assets like bonds and cash, and they get out of their crypto positions. This is one of the most interesting charts, though, when you look at what's going on in crypto. You look at how tied the global economy is to crypto. This chart here is showing you the total supply held by long-term holders. And I always look at Bitcoin as a good way to indicate the market, because if Bitcoin's leading, the altcoins will follow. If Bitcoin's going down, usually the altcoins will follow as well over a longer period. So in the orange here, we've got the long-term holder supply. So we're nearly at all-time high amounts of the total Bitcoin supply, which is nearly 70%, 75% of all total Bitcoins are held by people that haven't sold in over 2 years, which is probably most people in this room, right, including me. So there is a huge component of convicted Bitcoin holders, right? The other 30% are made up of derivative traders and mainly macro investors, like MicroStrategy, where they're acquiring a lot of Bitcoins on their balance sheet. Tesla recently had to sell a crap load of Bitcoin because of the macro factors. They needed more cash. When you're talking 10, 20, 50, $100,000 Bitcoin transactions, that's a lot more than the retail investors are moving around at any one time. So yes, we are tied to the macro economy, but this is a really, really bullish chart. More and more people are accumulating, more and more people are using them, and it's a really bullish chart for me, although price is down. The other one I look at here is the market value to realized value ratio, which is MV/RV ratio. So there's 2 different things when you're looking at investing into an asset. There's price and there's value. So the value is something that the asset or company is providing to society, and the value is, and the price is what you can buy for that asset. So a great investment is always when the price is lower or undervalued than the actual value that it's producing in the economy, right? Now in crypto, because it trades 24/7, anyone can buy it, and we're so low on market cap, you get these huge volatility swings. So in bull markets, the price goes way above our $1. So this is a $1 ratio. In bull markets, the price or the ratio goes way above the value that's providing, because people are willing to pay more for it because they think it's going higher. Same in bear markets. The price goes lower because we get more depressive and we sell because we think it's going to zero. But the reality is the value stays within a pretty sort of sort of stream as it gets more and more utilized across the world. But the price usually goes above and beyond because of human emotions. It's a very psychological market, crypto. And right now, Bitcoin has gone below this $1 ratio for the fifth time, I think. Fifth time. And every time after it goes under the $1 ratio, we have that bull market. Right. So right now I see Bitcoin specifically undervalued any point that's around that $22,000 US dollar level. I think that's all I want to talk about on that slide. Cool. Okay, so Ethereum, I did this talk last week, and this was merge coming up bullish. I'll just remove that. So we did the merge. It all went successfully, thank goodness. Ethereum dominating, in my opinion. So the total value locked of Ethereum versus other layer 1 solutions is ginormous. Right? If we look at Ethereum, it's holding 64% of the total value locked in layer 1 solutions. Not that I think that Ethereum, as I mentioned, is going to be the only winner. Back to the App Store analogy, there might be Apple, Android, etc., etc. But I do think Ethereum is really scaling. They just finished the merge. They went from proof of work to proof of stake. So they've reduced the energy output by about 99%. The blockchain's become far more scalable. The only downside, I think, to proof of stake, who here actually sort of follows Ethereum pretty deeply, like proof of work, proof of stake across it? Cool. So for those people that aren't, Ethereum went away from the blockchain that Bitcoin uses, which is proof of work, which is where miners compete to solve an algorithm that basically locks in the transactions, and it went to proof of stake. Now, proof of stake basically is better for the environment, reduces less energy because you don't need miners to compute the transactions. However, we are a little bit more centralized. So Lido, one of the liquid staking providers, actually owns around 30% of the total staked Ethereum. So compared to Bitcoin, Bitcoin's far more decentralized. But when you look at Ethereum, we've got bigger players and exchanges that own a lot more of the Ethereum, which theoretically is potentially more susceptible to government crackdowns when you've got more centralized people to go and hunt down. So that's the only downside I see for proof of stake, but really exciting that Ethereum pulled it off. The analogy I used was Ethereum's a rocket ship, and mid-flight they tried to change the engine mid-flight with $300 billion on board. So they did it, thank goodness. So the other really interesting stat here as well is we've got the all-time high stable coins on exchanges. So this chart here is showing the amount of stable coins on exchanges, and it's hitting an all-time high. So what this basically represents to me is a lot of the crypto investors, when the market sort of turned, rather than taking their crypto out for cash, they rotated into stable coins. Now, for me, when I look at it deeper, well, why would you want stablecoins? To reinvest into the market at some point in time or do something within the crypto market. So there's a lot of people here holding stablecoins ready to invest back into the market when the time's right. This hasn't happened before in previous bull markets. January 2021, look at the stablecoin volume. It's absolutely rocketed since January 2021. It's another really bullish signal. So I do believe we're on the cusp of the greatest wealth transfer I've ever seen. This is a pretty broad statement, but I am super, super excited. I think for those people here in a bear market, like, oh my goodness, this is unbelievable. Like, I can't believe how many people showed up in a bear market. For those people that were here in 2018, like, holy hell, there was no parties like there was last night. So one of the most common questions I get is like, Ben, I want to invest or I'm already investing. How can I start? Where do I start? What should I buy? When should I buy it? How do I look at any investing asset? We put together this ultimate crypto checklist, which basically goes through 3 different strategies. So you've got technicals, fundamentals, and sentiment. And there's different types of analysis you can do on crypto assets. Most, I say, people have a certain niche. You might listen to someone, an influencer that has mainly technicals or maybe fundamentals or maybe sentiment. What we try and do is mix like a 360-degree view of a crypto asset, because I think crypto is unlike any other asset, right? You're not just doing valuations on how much Coca-Cola is doing and what their profit and loss is. It's different. You do have to think about sentiment. You do have to think about technicals, and you do have to think about fundamentals. I'm less bullish on technicals. I'm not really a TA guy. I'm more fundamentals. But we put together basically a checklist here. It's completely free. We do take your email. I'm sorry, but we do. It's completely free, and we basically have a checklist. So there's 10 different ways to look at any crypto asset across the board, digitals, tokenized assets, across those 3 different checklists. So you can scan that QR code if you want that. I went over to hand over to Q&A, and I screwed up at the start because there's a lot more people that are actually into crypto than what I thought today. So apologies about that. But I want to hand over to Q&A. If there's any questions about crypto investing, Web3, NFTs, portfolio structure, ways to value assets, Yeah, feel free to go.
All right, so I've been asking this to a lot of different people because I work in Web3 as well, and I find it fascinating. But you've got $100 to spend, but you cannot put it on Bitcoin or Ethereum. What are you doing?
I love that question. I've got $1,000. What do you buy? Okay, so not Bitcoin or Ethereum. It's not enough for a Moonbirds, Greg. We can't get an NFT with $100. It's a really good question. If you've got $100, right? Okay. Again, this is sitting on the fence. Do you want to make $110 or you want to make like 10,000? Okay, so if I had $100 and I wanted to turn, it's probably a cheesy comment, but I probably wouldn't invest in a crypto for $100, right? I have to. Okay. Fuck. I'm trying to get away from not financial advice. I'm going to get shot after this. Maple Finance is one of my favorite projects. It's a Sydney company, as I mentioned before. It's a DeFi project, not financial advice. If I had $100, I'd buy that. I would definitely only buy Bitcoin though if I had $100. If that wasn't the rules. I think back to my previous point, starting out in crypto, understanding what Bitcoin is the most important factor for me. Like, if you don't understand what money is, Bitcoin doesn't make sense. That's how I fell down the rabbit hole. Once you start questioning money and why the $10 note is worth what it is, and why property's gone up 300%, but our wages haven't changed, and why the cup of coffee is $6. Once you start to understand that and the value behind what money is worth, Bitcoin makes a whole lot of sense. And then the blockchain makes sense. And then Ethereum makes sense. So that's like the funnel for me. Always start with Bitcoin, but Maple Finance, I guess. Any other questions?
Yeah, just with NFTs, is staking NFTs financially beneficial in the long run? Like, do some of the tokens that these staking NFTs provide sometimes are not worth much in the end, especially if the project goes down, or what is it worthwhile to stake NFTs?
So the question was, is it worthwhile staking NFTs? I personally, across the board, don't ever stake my assets from a risk factor. So if you think about staking, you're basically locking up your assets, NFTs or tokens, to deliver something of value on the blockchain. But the problem with that is you're giving up your assets to someone else to entrust that they're going to do the right thing with it, plus the token value, right? Now, if you have lockup periods, if you can't touch your assets for 12 months and the token tanks, you basically got your hands tied. And I was having a conversation out there with someone around, what are my thoughts on staking? I personally have never done it, and I never will. I'm a big component of own your own keys, own your own wallet. So yeah, sort of be your own bank, that whole idea of decentralization. Look at what happened recently with Celsius or Luna or UST and all these different places where you put your assets, elsewhere. Because crypto was still very immature in a sense of a lot of the business models. Celsius was one of the most trusted, places in the world to put your crypto. They called themselves a crypto bank. And I put my heart out to anyone that lost money in Celsius, because I know a shitload of people lost a lot of money, right? But that, again, is giving up your keys for someone else to do with them. And if you look in the terms and conditions of Celsius, you weren't the owner anymore. Although you have your account, and even a lot of the exchanges here, although you have an account with these exchanges, it's not actually your money anymore, right? And usually users or retail investors, when things go tits up, like a bankruptcy, we are the last people to be paid out, right? And that's why there's been so many people burnt in Celsius, because they're paying out all their investors, or their staff, or we're nobody, right? So I'm not a big believer in, it's not that I'm not a believer, I just don't like doing it. I'd rather have my assets in a ledger and my mum. The question is where do I buy my crypto assets? I still use centralized exchanges. I just withdraw it straight away. Yep.
Thanks, Ben. So DCA, dollar cost average, is always talked about well, and putting Bitcoin and Ethereum is always great to get in. What I never really hear is people talking about exit strategies. So what is your idea of an exit strategy, and how would you go about building that?
So the question was exit strategies, when to sell, what to do. I spoke at an event on Wednesday night in Melbourne. It was a high net worth event, and I met this guy who had, at the peak, $19 million in crypto. He showed me his portfolio. That was 4 months ago, and he's currently got $7 million, and he hasn't sold a penny. Also met another guy who sold everything into XRP, and as well didn't sell at the top, didn't sell at all. I think people look at selling strategies as black or white. I either own it or I don't. It's not the wrong way to look at it. The idea of a fungible asset is you can sell bits and pieces, right? So what I did in the last bull market was sell bits and pieces. So I had a spreadsheet, not very fancy. I had some targets that I wanted to hit with different altcoins, Bitcoin. And as soon as I hit those targets, I took out 5%. Went higher, I took out 10%. Went higher, 20%. And I worked my way up. And I put that in a stable coin or cash or whatever the hell you want to do it. Whatever you want to do. And you layer out, right? Same on the way down, layer on the way in. I think people look at too black and white. You can always layer in and layer out. And that's, I found, the best strategy to sell. And have those targets, because we've all been in the bull markets, right? We have our targets. We're like, oh, God, it could keep going up, though. Another 10%, right? Try and stick to your targets.
Just a quick one, Ben. You said this is going to be the greatest wealth transfer ever. From what, to what, and when?
Good question. And this is the last question I'm out of time. So the question was the greatest wealth transfer ever. From, when's it going to happen and where's it coming from? For me, it's coming to us as everyday people. You know, if you look at the best private companies in the world, in the Web 2 world, you can only invest if you're an accredited investor, right? For the first time, this is opened up to anyone in the world, no matter your, race, skin color, gender, how much money you have. We've all got an opportunity to invest in these assets, and that's where I think that's where the wealth transfer is coming from, the bigger guys, the governments, the sovereign wealth funds, into everyday lives and everyday people. And that's the most exciting thing for me. I'm going to wrap up. I'm not going to finish with my story. It's a good story, but you can find me on socials, Collective Shift, if you want to check out more about education and research. I do 2 podcasts, one with the Nova podcast. If you're more wanting 10-minute bite-size beginner stuff, it's called Decoding Crypto. And then I talk about more sport, life, investing, Web3 on the Ben and Berg's podcast as well. You can find me on Twitter and LinkedIn. And thanks for everyone for coming. Appreciate it. So.